The graph is going up steadily, but it's not going to be solved in my lifetime. This is a multi-decadal journey.
You can see the power in it.
Staring into the murky current, we're awaiting the arrival of one of the oldest species on Earth.
We're on the banks of the River Severn. It forms part of the border between England and Wales, and it's 11 o'clock at night. Believe it or not, this is the perfect time to go fishing for a critically endangered species, the European eel. Now, you might be squirming yourself thinking, oh, those slippery black characters, but the health of European rivers depends on them.
It's a 100 million year old enigma that keeps fishermen like Jason Sparrow guessing.
So what are the numbers like that you're getting right now, Jason?
What's that, probably about 30?
And is that a good dip, as you call it?
I'd like more, but I'm not going to complain because I'm catching something.
Eel numbers have been declining for hundreds of years, with a marked acceleration between 1980 and 2010 seeing numbers across Europe plummet by as much as 95%.
So how many generations of your family have been coming out here on the River
Obviously,
Severn?
my dad, I can always remember my granddad doing it, and my great-granddad used to do it. So 4 generations.
Over 300 UK licences are still available for a regulated fishing season.
Because each year, you know, you get a lot of new people doing it. You know, they hear about the few quid you can earn. So they're like, let's get in on that.
Yeah.
So maybe, you know, they should cap the licences.
60% of the catch used to be sold to exporters for around 150 to 200 pounds a kilo for restocking. The other 40% could be sold for consumption for a premium price. But the new Brexit trade deal has stopped export of the 10 to 15 million eels that used to go to Europe. Now the market's wiped out, some fishermen and women have chosen to volunteer their time to restock within the UK.
And does it feel good to be sort of restocking them, putting something back?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always good to put something back. You can't keep take.
Yeah.
All eels caught tonight are brought together to recuperate before being released. But their chances of survival are slim. The long-term consequences of Brexit are also unknown, and organised crime has a multi-billion-dollar black market to feed. So what next for the European eel? Morning on the River Severn. I've been joined by Andrew Carr, chairman of the Sustainable Eel Group, or SEG.
Nice crisp morning.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the bank there. Is that how high up it comes?
That's right.
I'm about to see a natural phenomenon known as the Seven Boar.
I'm starting to get a little bit excited because it's close now, isn't it?
Yeah. It'll be here in 10 minutes, is my guess.
The boar is formed when the rising tide moves into the Bristol Channel and Severn Estuary, which forces the water upstream, hopefully bringing with it millions of glass eels.
This is the second greatest tidal range in the world. And this tidal stream that we call the Seven Boar is the perfect free ride for the elvers up the River Severn.
They're surfing it, basically.
They're surfers. They're the original surfing dudes. I can hear it coming. That's the boar.
Oh yes, you can hear that roar in the background. That's it coming down.
That's it, 200 or 300 metres away.
Wow.
Today it's more of a surge than some of the spectacular waves seen before, but you can see the water rise many metres in minutes. This occurs twice a day at certain times of the year and is associated with the full moon. The glass eels begin to arrive around February, peak in April, and can continue until June.
And so where have they come from to be here in the Severn?
Okay. The eel's life cycle is extraordinarily complex. It's a very long-lived species. And we think it starts in the Sargasso Sea at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, sounds ominous. This is not a great place to be born.
The odds are never on the eel side. Eels begin life as eggs in the North Atlantic Sargasso Sea. It's thought they drift as larvae for about 1 to 2 years, covering 4,000 miles northeast in the Gulf Stream. On the journey, they morph into leaf-shaped leptocephalus to catch the current, and it's thought only 1% of the eggs survive. As they approach the freshwater rivers of Europe and the UK, they evolve into glass eels, which make their way upriver using the tides. Over a period of weeks, they become darker in colour and are called elvers. They'll spend around 5 to 25 years there, which is most of their adult life, and grow up to 1 metre long. They develop into the adult stage of the yellow eel first, before finally transforming into silver eels when they start to become reproductively mature and swim back to the Sargasso Sea. There they spawn and die. The females definitely get the worst deal.
They're literally, the females, are 1 million eggs a kilo, and a big female is 2 or 3 kilos.
Shush!
And by the time she arrives, the scientists tell me, she's 85% eggs, absolutely shattered. She's just a vehicle for carrying.
I bet there's a lot of feminist eels out there. They're fed up.
Yeah.
Eels play a huge role in ecosystems as scavengers, eating such things as mosquito larvae and dead fish. And they, in turn, are eaten by bigger fish, birds and otters. They're not as cuddly as a panda, but keep the balance in freshwater environments. Andrew and the SEG are attempting a common environmental juggle, trying to accelerate the eel recovery while keeping the traditions alive and support the local economy in a sustainable way. And fishermen, or elvermen as they are called, are a big part of the plan.
People might be sitting at home and saying, well, hang on, why are you fishing an endangered species?
Well, the thing about fishing for them is you can assist their migration over the barrier. So you're giving them a human-assisted 10, 20, 30-mile ride and then releasing them, and modern language, we're calling it rewilding. We're rewilding them above these barriers. And this assistance will reduce the mortality substantially.
These barriers are the weirs, floodgates, locks and hydropowered stations that block the glass eel's migration all the way upriver. There's been a 93% decline in freshwater migratory fish in the UK and Europe. A study by Swansea University estimates that 99% of the UK's rivers are fragmented by barriers and sluice gates like this that stop eels moving from the river to the wetlands.
Look at that view.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
A proper wilderness. But is it really a wilderness? Look at the human engineering.
Well, yeah. So is this one of these things? Are these the greatest threat to the eel?
A huge threat, yeah.
Andrew tells me that in the surrounding 20 miles of the Severn, there are a couple of hundred barriers. In total, the UK has around 100,000, and on the continent, a report by the Amber Barrier Atlas concludes there could be well over 1 million.
It's turned into the biggest killer of all. By stopping the migration, eel mortality goes through the roof. And this has led WWF in the Global Planet report to say the most degraded habitat on the planet is not your Amazon rainforest or anywhere else. It's here in Europe, and it's our rivers and wetlands.
The wetlands are vital for eels, and Andrew says around 3/4 of them have been drained in Europe and the UK, mostly in the last 50 years.
This area historically would have been a wetland, a marshland, perfect eel habitat, and they've been drained.
So it's just another example of a loss of habitat for the eel?
Yes. Wetlands are the most important habitat for eel. They're trying to make this metamorphosis from a saltwater fish to a freshwater fish. And this transition is as big as changing from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And already we have a mortality rate here at this phase of something like 90%.
Oh.
So if you take the wetlands away, the mortality goes through the roof. They are still very abundant, but nothing to what they were.
But even if the eels make it back to safety where they can grow, when they reach maturity they'll have to battle through the barriers all over again to get back to the Sargasso Sea.
So what's stopping you from sending these eels around the UK? Is it a lack of funding or a lack of fishermen, or is it too many rules stopping you from doing that?
Yeah, it's money, someone's got to pay for it, and there are rules, but the rules can be met. They surround biosecurity and issues like that, but we can meet those.
But there's another, more menacing threat that's harder to deal with. European glass eel numbers have been decimated over the decades, and organisations like the Sustainable Eel Group are trying to turn that around. But another group is undermining a lot of the good work: organised crime. Measured on the basis of profit by weight, eel smuggling is more lucrative than trafficking cocaine. It has been estimated over $3 billion worth of glass eels are being smuggled every year. The 150 to 200 pounds a kilo a fisherman can make on UK riverbanks can become thousands when sold illegally to Asian markets.
That's what people forget, is how much organised crime is behind the eel trade.
Eels have taken up most of Ian Guildford's time in his role with the UK Wildlife Crime Unit.
So ourselves, France, Spain, etc., looking into this illegal trade, working with Europol, but it expanded, to be fair. We now work with countries all across the world.
Seafood salesman Gilbert Koo was found guilty of smuggling an estimated £53 million worth of live eels out of the UK.
So they're not only smuggling them out in containers, I've heard they're also putting them in suitcases and taking them on aeroplanes.
Basically, you're finding that people are being paid to come over. They're going into Spain, they're being equipped with suitcases. Then they go to the holding area where the glass eels have been stored for a short period just to settle them. They're then put into like plastic bags, aerated, a bit like your goldfish at a fair. And it's just taken on board a commercial flight, booked in as normal baggage. 48 hours maximum, you'll get a high return of live glass eels at the other end.
And I guess the finger's always being pointed at the fishermen because everybody thinks, well, they're the ones that are making the money.
It's like any area of criminality. It's a small minority that are abusing it, and they can see that there's money to be made from it, and it's opportunists.
Andrew is trying to show people what can be gained from restocking eel populations. Today, he's brought together eel fishermen and other supporters to celebrate the release of 100,000 glass eels caught by fishermen further downriver. The goal is to release over 2 million further upstream past barriers before the end of the fishing season.
A magical day though today with the alvermen, getting them on side with you. Was that a sort of important moment to sort of get them into the release program?
Yes, very important. We've always had a few, but one of the successes of this program is it's reached out to others who were very suspicious of us. And there is a lot of distrust and a history of distrust. There's a book and a story on it called The Victorian Elver Wars. It goes back a long, long time. So yeah, collaborative leadership. We're trying to build links for a joined up agenda.
You need them on your side.
We do. They're part of the solution.
Another part are fish passes, structures large and small built beside weirs and other barriers to enable migratory fish and eels to move upriver. In 2020, we visited the construction site of the Diglas Weir Fish Pass in Worcester with Jenny Hermely from the Canal River Trust, who's seen firsthand the almost impossible task fish face.
I was here a few weeks ago, probably 8 weeks ago, watching salmon attempting to cross this weir. And it was heartbreaking, I think, actually seeing them trying and really powering up towards the weir crest and then slipping back down and making any number of attempts.
This pass is one of 4 to be built by several partners involved in the Unlocking the Seven project.
Eels are actually quite affected if there's too many eels concentrated in one place. They don't want to be in competition with each other. They don't want to be a big group of eels that attracts predators. So they want to spread out from each other. And when they hit a barrier like this, they have a problem because it's much more difficult for them to disperse and access a much wider range of habitats. So eels will tend to come up the sides of the river, clinging to the habitats on the side. So some of them will find our fish pass and they will be able to negotiate the low flow parts of the fish pass, which is great.
This is the biggest deep vertical slot pass in England and Wales. It needs to be this big because of the species they're targeting, such as twait shad and salmon. It's hoped eels will also use the pass. Richard Harrison is my concrete tour guide.
So Richard, so this is where they come upriver, and then this will be an open space there with the doors?
Yeah, so they come upriver, they'll typically work their way across the weir. So we're quite fortunate the way the weir's angled here, so they'll naturally want to work their way to the entrance to the fish pass.
So it's 100 metres long, is that right?
100 metres long, 8 metres wide, 8 metres deep. Yeah.
Let's go down. I want to see this 8 metres deep bit. You're going to fit a lot of fish in here, Richard.
Just a few, hopefully.
Ready for the whales to come in.
Apparently it'll fit 36 blue whales.
Oh, now that's a good stat to have for Christmas parties. I feel like we're going downhill. Is that right?
We are going downhill at the moment.
Okay.
And which will effectively be uphill for the fish because they'll be working their way through the fish pass in that way.
Okay. So each of these areas is slightly stepped down, so they're going to be stepped up. Why haven't you just got one big long chute?
So behind us here we've got a 2 metre plus high weir. So in the fish, the way that the dynamics of how the fish will work is they can only go up certain gradients at a time, which is why we've got here a sequence of 11 pools in total, and each one's got a gradient gain of about 200 millimetres to roughly correspond with the height of the weir to enable them to slowly work their way through and not have too much flow, which will prevent them from working their way through the fish pass.
So all these shapes are designed so that these are fish-friendly shapes, are they?
Yes, they're specifically designed that way, yeah. So we have an angled run-off here, so it's designed so the water will flow through the fish pass. It'll hit this angle, and it's designed to come in, and you'll see this behind here is it's called a C-section, and it's shaped in a C, and the water will hit that C-section, and that breaks up the energy in the flow, dissipates energy, and then sends the water back round. And the fish, as they work their way through, so there's one of these slots on either side, so there's one here and one just over there. It's about 1/2 metre wide, and then the intention is in each pool, the fish can take a short breather. So normally behind this section, this is known as the nib section, so they'll typically have a bit of a breather in here. It might be a few hours, could be less, and then they work their way into the next pool and gradually work their way through to the top end of the fish pass.
Months later, thanks to a few pandemic delays, we're back to see Jenny.
So the fish pass is open, but are there any fish?
Well, I'm very pleased to report that yes, we definitely have fish already using the fish pass. We don't expect to see the eels very often. They will be creeping along the stones in the bottom of the pass.
And how long will it take before you know how successful this has been?
Well, I think the real success will come over the very long term, because what we're trying to do is reconnect fish to their historic spawning grounds. So it will take a number of generations to see the benefit of that, to see really vibrant populations of these migratory fish back on the river. But in the meantime, we have lots of ways that we're monitoring. We've actually tagging twait shad at the moment down in Tewkesbury where you were earlier, and we'll be able to monitor them from acoustic tagging as they approach the pass, as they move up the river, and we even fit another kind of tag that specifically monitors them as they move through this pass, so we can see how they interact with the structure.
Fantastic. So far, so successful.
Exactly, yeah.
It may feel like a lot of fuss and money over a few fish and eels, but as the world wakes up to what we're doing to our oceans, people like Andrew are working hard to make sure our freshwater environments get the attention they deserve too. And slowly but surely, it seems the efforts to increase glass eel numbers are working.
This is a very precarious spot, but it's a very privileged spot because I am going to release about 3,000 of these little glass eels. And we've given them a lift up the hill by about, or up the stream I should say, by about 12 miles. And it means that they don't have to go through all those other barriers. So it's just a little less sort of hard work that they have to do. So we'll just tip a few in here and let them go. Woo, look at them all, amazing. There we go. And they're off. Oh, amazing. Good luck. Go forth, multiply. Can we get them off that endangered list?
This is the goal. It's not just the list, it's much more that their numbers increase again. We can show it through measurement. The graph is going up. Okay, it's not going up like that yet, but it's going up steadily. But it's not going to be solved in my lifetime. This is a multi-decadal journey.
It's all finished. Oh, don't worry. We've got loads more cool science and tech stories from Razor. All you need to do is like, comment and subscribe and hit the bell button below for notifications. See you next time.